Hi, everyone. It's a beautiful day here in New York. We're so happy to have you join us. We're delighted to see you all. It's been a really rough time, but being together makes things seem a whole lot better. I know it's been challenging since we last met, challenging personally and challenging as far as business goes, but we've all learned how to do things we never thought we could do before. And we've learned new skills. And for that, we're going to come out of this stronger and better. Uh, we're so anxious to hear your tips, your suggestions, your concerns, and so grateful that you're going to share them with us. Uh, and it's going to be an especially good meeting because we have Warren Shoulberg with us. You know, many months ago in March, I remember sitting at my desk, realizing that we'd have to close down our business. And after I caught my breath, the first call I made was to Warren because there is no one that I could have thought of who could better give me a viewpoint, a lens on what was happening. There's no one with his insight, history, wisdom, love of the industry, understanding of the industry that I could have called. So we're so grateful that he's with us. There's just no one else like Warren in our industry, and I really, there's no one else whose advice I respect more. So we know that and I'm sure most of you are familiar with him. His commentary, his journalism, his strategy, he just doesn't have an equal. He is the gold standard. So I'm not going to hold up any longer. I'm going to turn this over. And Tom, do you have anything to add to that?
No, we're always excited to hear what Warren's take on things, and certainly often the bellwether of what's happening, and he really gives us clear pictures. We're here to continue to support all of our customers out there. We continue to be prolific in product. We're hearing some healthy things from the marketplace across the country, and I think there is a lot of positive and built up demand that is being unleashed as good news. And calm and certain and more certainty, comes into the news. So we're excited to hear Warren's take on everything, and what our guru thinks about the future days.
But I have to really add something to that. I just have to say that my hat is off to retailers. You really are our inspiration. We are awestruck at your resiliency and amazed at your creativity. And we too are moving, and we are hopeful, and we hope you are as well. And we're moving from a survival mode to beyond survival. So I really do congratulate you and thank you for your inspiration. Z, you want to?
Well, thank you. Thank you for that handoff. And enough about Warren already. Gee, my goodness, what a Warren, are you coming up here? There he is. Warren, how many times over the years have you and I stood in the halls of major markets throughout the country talking about distribution and the roles of and the way things have morphing and changing over the time? This is unprecedented, but what I've always been impressed with, and I know you have been as well, is how the independent retailer is able to adapt and pivot much more seamlessly, much more quickly than any big box retailer. and to Bobby's point, how amazing and some of the things that they've been doing to weather this pandemic is, to Bobby's point again, an inspiration. What's been on your mind for the last few months of what you've come to appreciate or realize about things?
Well, the first thing is I really want to go eat in a restaurant. I am, if I eat one more takeout meal or one more drive-through, I think I'm going to go crazy. So to me, it's all about the meals, and that's the most important thing. So looking forward to that. As it pertains to this business, couldn't agree more. The resiliency of the industry to get through this is just remarkable. None of us have ever had a challenge like this before, and this has really been a test. And good businesses have survived and even done better than survival. And I think that's just remarkable. And particularly because you can't say, well, this is what we did the last time this happened, because this ain't ever happened before. And so people have had to make it up as they've gone along, and it's amazing. We've a lot of businesses have not made it through this, but the good ones have, and hopefully come out on the other side in better shape. So. Got lots more to talk about, but that's kind of the big picture view, Tom.
When you and I were preparing for this, I know you have a presentation that I'm excited about seeing, as I'm sure our guests will. I think we should remind everybody that in the midst of it, please feel free to raise your hand, ask questions. There's no need to wait till the end of a presentation or anything, because we're going to touch on so many different aspects of the current environment. And Warren, I'm going to hand it off to you at this point, and help out in any way I can. But it's all yours, baby.
Okay. Well, thanks, TZ, and thanks, Bobby and Tom, for including me in this. And no pressure when you call me a guru and an expert. No pressure at all. So that's real glad to hear about that. I do have some thoughts. Going to focus on basically, as you see, how to live with the COVID economy, and maybe even come out of it in slightly better shape. And going to talk about this. And as TZ said, I welcome your questions, comments, rebuttals as we go along. Just jump in, and we can discuss that. So our producer is handling the slides, so I'm going to ask him to flip to the next one, which is we're going to make the world safe for tchotchkes and maybe make a few bucks for yourself too. So I'm going to touch on four things here. One is the overall home market and how it's doing. Second is what you as a retailer can do about it. Tools, techniques, and tricks. Going to talk about the third thing is products. What kind of products would seem to be doing better right now? And then finally, going to talk about the wholesale process, trade shows and markets, and what's going to happen with that. I will give you my disclaimer, which is that anything I say is one man's opinion, and I will disavow any knowledge of saying any of this 90 seconds after we get through. So let's start. We're going to take the next slide here, which is home sweet home. And right now, the home business is doing terrific. There was a lot of concern in the early stages of the pandemic in March and April that all business was going to be terrible, and we certainly saw canceled orders and closed stores and all kinds of things. But starting when the stores began to reopen in May and June, we saw the home business really rebound faster than anybody really thought. Some of this is because the housing market is strong. Unlike the Great Recession of a decade ago, which was caused by the housing market crashing and burning, what's happening now? The housing market is doing well, and is doing better than well, particularly in the suburbs. So when the home furnishings market does well, it's largely because the housing market is doing well. So we're in a sweet spot, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But let's move on to the next slide, which is if we can change the slide here, please. We have heard the word experiences more than any of us could ever possibly imagine. Everybody thought that people were moving to experiences, and they wanted to go out to restaurants, and they wanted to travel, and they wanted to go to health clubs and adventures and all this kind of stuff. Well, guess what? That ain't happening right now. Which is not to say it's not going to come back, but for the time being, all of that effort and disposable income that went to those kinds of activities, it's all moving elsewhere. And where is it moving? Let's move the next slide, please, which is that it's going to buy stuff. Again, we all thought people were going to say, I got enough stuff, I don't need any more, particularly millennials and Gen Zs. We don't want to own stuff. We don't want to have this stuff around. Again, that's changed dramatically. My favorite example outside the home business is the automobile business, which is again, prior to COVID, everybody said people weren't going to buy cars. They were going to rent. They were going to Uber. They were going to take public transportation, bicycles, whatever. The car market is doing great. People are saying, well, I don't really want to get on an airplane. I don't really want to get on a train, much less a New York City subway. So I'm going to buy a car. And so be careful on forecasts, including this one, because you just don't know what's going to happen. So exit experiences, enter stuff. And let's the next slide, please, which is that can you say Venn diagram? And this is a term that I've had to learn. A Venn diagram, you've all seen pictures of it, even if you didn't know what it was called, and I didn't. It really marks the confluence of several factors. So if you take the fact that we're all mostly at home now, whether we're working or we're stuck at home, we're sequestered, but we're home. We are not traveling. We are not going out to restaurants. So we have a lot of disposable income that used to go to things like that is now available to us. And third is that we have a sense that our homes are our sanctuaries and that this is where we want to be. And so you put those three things together, and where they meet in the middle, it's that home sweet home spot. And that's kind of what a Venn diagram is. And I think it's a great phenomena. And right now, the home business is right smack in the middle of it, which is great. Which raises the final question on the subject of home sweet home, and that's our next slide, which is how long is all this going to last? And again, making predictions is a risky business, but I'll point to a few people. Gary Friedman, who's CEO of RH, the former Restoration Hardware, says he sees a good 1 to 2 years minimum of time when the home business is gonna do well. Neil Saunders, who is a great retail consultant, he says foreseeable future, and again, that's a vague term, but I think we can safely say that the home business is going to do well for at least the next 12 to 18 months. And that should affect your planning, your buying, your budgeting, basically how you run your business. Could last longer. I guess it could last less. When the stock market went crazy yesterday over the news that there was a vaccine, but let's be realistic about that. The most optimistic forecasts about vaccines are that 9 to 12 months to begin to really be able to vaccinate people in sizable numbers, and you're still looking at maybe a third of the population that is skeptical about vaccines or skeptical about this vaccine. So anybody who says, okay, January 1st, everybody's getting back on airplanes and going out to restaurants, it's not going to happen. So again, there's some time here for the home business. So that's the overall thing about Home Sweet Home. Let's move to our next slide. Which is, what do you do about it? So identified a couple of tools, techniques, and tricks that hopefully you know about, but I'm always good at stating the obvious, so I'll talk about that. First one, lean and mean. You don't need me to tell you that you've had to cut your overhead and your costs and make unfortunate choices about employees and about how you're spending. It's just the way it is, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. So it's the obvious one. It's the one that you probably have felt the pain more than anybody. So that's the first thing. Number two here, and our next slide is on e-com. Obviously, if you ever had any doubts about how to do online sales, hopefully they've been removed in the last 9 months. But e-com off the shelf basically means that there are terrific platforms that you can just buy off the shelf that will allow you to get into online, and it's not nearly as daunting as it used to be. You don't need an IT department. You don't need to make huge investments. You can get hooked up with online platforms, whether it's Shopify or services like that really are easy compared to the way it used to be. Yeah, it still has some challenges, but this is much easier than it used to be. And if you're not in e-com, then you really need to do it. Coming into this, online was between 10 and 15% of all retail sales, depending on the category. By the time things settle down, it's going to be somewhere between 15 and 25%, again, depending on the category. And I think any business can't afford to walk away from that chunk of business. So e-com is no longer a luxury; it's a necessity for you staying in business. So obvious. Trader Joe way. I don't know if you're fans of Trader Joe and how often you go there, but I am really impressed with what they're doing to create a sense of safety for their customers. The Trader Joe that I go to has a queue outside of it with spaces marked off where people can stand waiting to go in. They have a person at the entrance who is handing out shopping carts. and only letting you in the store when somebody else leaves. So they're monitoring the traffic and the head count in the store. They have a hand sanitizer station outside the store, and they've got one directly inside as well. And I think Trader Joe has done a great job of setting up their stores so customers have a sense of safety and security when they walk in. So if you're looking for a model on how to set up your store, and obviously if you're a smaller store, you can't do all the things that they do, but there's things that you can take and you can learn from them that are just great. So Trader Joe is a terrific model here. Next tool, technique, and trick is curbside your enthusiasm. With apologies to Larry David. Curbside pickup, again, is one of those things that was a novelty before all this started, and it's now a necessity. If you look at businesses that have set this up, it's remarkable what they're doing. Again, look at somebody like Bed Bath & Beyond. In March, before this all started, they had 0 stores that had curbside pickup. By June, they had 900 stores. Again, Bed Bath probably has a slightly bigger budget for this than you might, but it's become a fact of life, and it's become something, a requirement that you have to have. If you're in a strip center or downtown, it makes it so much easier than if you're in a mall. But curbside pickup is just so very important, and you need to be able to offer it. Home Depot and Lowe's, again, much bigger stores, more than half of their online orders are picked up at the store. So this is a factor of doing business, just like having a checkout counter, having a stockroom in the back. Curbside is something that virtually every retailer needs to have right now. Next up, number 5 is deliver the goods. Again, something that was an oddity before. Same-day delivery or next-day delivery from a physical retail store was just something that most retailers didn't even think about. But it's now become a given for a lot of stores, and I think you need to look into it. Again, you're not talking about adding on personnel to do this. There are third parties like Shipt and like Instacart that can do this. The food delivery services, Uber and DoorDash, are starting to offer this. So if you think delivery is important for your market, and I think you should, then there are third-party services that you can use. And I think that's the overriding theme with all of these things, is that there are outside services that you can use that will help you with all of this, that don't mean you starting from scratch and having to reinvent the wheel. So very important to have that. And I think there's a 6th one here, maybe. Live stream. Okay, so live stream is something that 6 months ago, I don't think any of us really ever heard of it. But it is doing a live show from your store. This really took off in China first. And again, China's a different market, but you'd be amazed how similar it is in some things, where the store owner or somebody in the store would go on Facebook or some social media platform with their iPhone and walk around the store and show product. This was especially popular with apparel businesses, where they had models in the stores showing garments. And it wasn't just a fashion show. Live streaming involves a viewer being able to interact live with the host and place orders. This is a business. This is not just a social media post. Live streaming is now starting here in the U.S. Again, seems to be more popular with clothing stores than with home stores, but we're starting to see it in home stores. Macy's is now testing it. I've seen a number of other, again, mostly apparel stores that are doing it. Check it out if you're not familiar with it. Check it out and see if it's a fit for your store. It's an interesting concept. When you think about it, it's really has a lot of similarities with QVC and HSN and TV shopping, but it's on your phone and it's interactive in a way that TV shopping still isn't. So I like live streaming. Again, it's a low cost thing, and I think it has a lot of upside potential. So those are some tools, techniques, and tricks that I think you can be looking at to take advantage of the way shopping has changed. Not
Hey,
to
Warren?
say, yes, Tom.
My cue that you gave is QVC
Yep.
in regards to live stream it, and
Yep.
there's a wonderful book out called The Human Brand, and it talks about branding and branding loyalty, and they very interesting how they identify two characteristics in particular that the brands that have the most loyalty. One is certainly competence. In other words, can you deliver what you say you can deliver? The other one is warmth. And for years, our independent retailers, and I know from our side, from the supply side, with our sales force, our road sales force, there has never been a really good replacement for the warmth factor of face-to-face handshake, and live stream, and especially those retailers that I've seen that have done it very well. They've been able to warm a relatively cold media, which is e-commerce. And I think that's been a wonderful thing to see. And we have so many creative people in the retail sector that when we see somebody, I see Jennifer Roseborough, my South Carolina salesperson. She has a great loyal customer of Two's Company over the years, Lulu Burgess, and I always get the two confused, Beaufort or Beaufort, South Carolina. And she's on all the time and really has a fun, very warm and competent way about her. So I thought when you said QVC, that's their gig, warmth and competence, So can you think of anybody that you've seen that do that particularly well? I'll stand off and let you continue along those lines.
So yes, certainly the way that QVC interacts with its customers is amazing, and that's hard to do through a virtual platform. But I've watched some of these live stream shows, and I wish I could give you a specific name of the retailer, but they're really good. The host will be showing something, and somebody will message her in on Facebook. Can you have the model turn around and show me the back of it, or do the sleeves roll up, or whatever? And that ability, again, by definition, it's live, is just great, and it's a way to make the technology become a more intimate and more personal. So I think live streaming is great, and whatever happens with shopping patterns in the next couple of years, I think live streaming stays on as part of that. To mention, just like some of these other things, are third-party services that will help you set it up. are cost effective, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel. All of this you can get help. You don't have to do it on your own. So that's tools, techniques, and tricks. Wanted to move on to the next section, which is products, and I guess we'll say it's warm and fuzzy. Best thing to summarize it. We all know that when the pandemic first hit, and we went to the supermarket, we couldn't get comfort food, and Campbell's soup sales skyrocketed, and mac and cheese, and meatloaf, and all those kind of comfort food products. And I'm not even going to talk about toilet paper, but comfort food became what we all wanted, and now it's comfort food for the home. So you think about what kind of products work that make us feel comfortable and give us a sense of warm and fuzzy security. So I don't know if that's weighted blankets, if that's throws, if that's picture frames to show more pictures of friends and family, whether it's bread makers. Bread makers sales exploded because everybody was home baking bread. Not me, but other people. And so think about what kind of what comfort food translates for the home, and I think that's a key thing, particularly this Christmas. The second point would be and just seeing a question about going into the store and touching it, and that's absolutely true. A lot of the things that we just talked about in those tool techniques and tricks are designed to drive store traffic, not just online traffic. So even though something like live streaming, you can order online, I bet you a lot of that business is ultimately done when somebody comes into the store. Curbside pickup. I'd be shocked if a lot of people who come in theoretically for curbside pickup don't end up in the store. So a lot of this drives traffic back to the store, and you guys know better than me that once you've got a customer in the store, you got a better shot at selling them more than what they just came in for. So I think that's important, is that you need e-commerce, but your in-store business is not going to, we said e-commerce will be 15 to 25% of the business. That's a lot, but it still means that 75 to 85% of the business is done in your store. So can't ever forget that. Okay, so we'll come back to products, warm and fuzzy. We talked about comfort food for the home, and we're going to talk about classics. This is I debated whether to use the word classic or traditional, and I think classics is better. This is not a time when people are going to be buying a minimalist, super sleek contemporary. They want classics. I don't know if that's plaids, certain fabrics, or certain looks, but again, people want things that remind them of the home as a sanctuary, and nostalgic, an overused word, but it fits here. So classic products and classic looks, I think, are very critical in what you're going to be carrying in your store and selling. The third point would be, and if we can move on to number 3, made here, sold here. So we're all realistic. We know that the vast majority of gift and home products are not made here, and that's really not going to change all that much. the idea of factories returning here and manufacturing returning here is very unrealistic. It's just not going to happen. So made in the USA is nice. If it's if you can do it, it's great. But we've seen that consumers like the idea of made in the USA, but like the idea of a better price and a better product a lot more. So look for made in the USA, but I'm one of those skeptics who think that ultimately it's not one of those things that a lot of consumers that it's a point of differentiation and that it will help decide the sale. So, and I would welcome anybody who would have a rebuttal on that. Something similar for sustainability and transparency. This is eco-friendly products. This is all those kinds of things. Again, there's much more awareness of this right now. And studies have come out that for the first time, consumers are actually would actually pay for a more eco. General consensus was always that people liked that idea but weren't willing to pay for it. So I think they're willing to pay a little bit more for it. Is that 5%? Is that 10%? Maybe. So you want to keep looking at this. It's a real thing. You have a company like Ralph Lauren that is starting to put codes on their products, both in the store and online, that when you scan it, QR code, you can find out where this product was made, where the factory was, where the raw materials were grown. And so companies are getting onto this, and it's going to become a given. Will people pay a premium? I'm not sure, but it's something you should be aware of. And I think particularly now with a lot of concern about health and wellness, people want to know more about the provenance of their products. So keep your eye out on that. It's real for the first time, I think, in a long time, and it's something to be aware of. And I look at IKEA as a great example of what's happening in products. We all know IKEA as the home of the $49 bookcase and the $299 sofa, and guaranteed to last at least until you took it home. And that whole idea of disposable home furnishings, IKEA has built its business around that. But if you look at what they're doing now, they are clearly trying to make their products more durable and more sustainable. Again, they're talking about the provenance of the product, where it came from. And in Europe, they've started a program to buy back used IKEA products. Now, again, this is mind-boggling, since used IKEA products are not exactly worth a whole lot of money because they've generally often fallen apart. So IKEA is saying our products are better, and that they're not so disposable anymore. And I think that's a great barometer on the mood of the consumer, that they're maybe not so interested in these disposable short-term products. So I like what IKEA is doing, and I think it's a good indicator of where the direction of products and product design and product development is going. So warm and fuzzy, can't go wrong, particularly this Christmas. And hopefully you are already well into Christmas and know all about it. Which takes us to what you're going to do after Christmas, which is the whole buying and selling, the wholesale business, the wholesale model for trade shows and markets. Certainly, a lot of shows and markets were canceled this year. The ones that did happen were severely reduced. I went to the Atlanta and the High Point markets, and they were mere shadows of themselves. But they'll come back and they'll be more important. But I think what we're going to see is a trend towards more micro markets. And when TZ and I were talking about this before, we said, it's kind of ironic that the whole market model had consolidated into a very concentrated base in just a couple of cities: Atlanta, New York, High Point, Dallas, Las Vegas, and all of those secondary markets, Columbus, Ohio, Denver, the Atlantic City tabletop show. They had all disappeared or were disappearing. I think you're going to see a reverse of that. You're going to see more of these micro markets. High Point, which again, more furniture than gift, but has some gift, has started a program called First Tuesdays. And as you might imagine, the first Tuesday of the month, a number of showrooms have agreed to open up and to have buyers, stores, and dealers come in and do business. And I think that's a fascinating concept. High Point is the most market-centric of any of the trade shows in the home furnishings business. And they're saying we can't just have these two big monster markets a year. So look for more micro markets, and that's good. I think that really helps. These micro markets, they're going to be more often. Again, this First Tuesday is a great barometer. Coming back to High Point, they did a pre-market, which they've always done and has been up and down, very successful this year. A lot of stores came in early and did their business and then got out of town. So I think you're going to see more these micro markets again, more local and more often. That's a reverse to what we've seen. This year, we'll look back as the year that digital marketplaces really got established, and whether it's fair or what IMC is doing or what Dallas is doing. Brandwise just introduced a platform, I think yesterday. I don't know which ones of these are going to work, but the idea of digital marketplaces, and some of those are being done directly by the vendors themselves. This is here. It doesn't replace in-person physical shows, but it does play a role. And we're going to see digital marketplaces continue to have a place in the buying and selling of wholesale products. So I'm not smart enough to figure out what that place is going to be, but the digital marketplaces, unlike the first time they were tried in the early 2000s, this time they're going to stick around and they're going to be real. The last thing in buying and selling is, what about the rep? And for those who are reps who are on this, you've been hearing about the death of the independent sales rep or the company rep for about 1 million years, and the good ones are still here. And I think that's exactly what happens. Is the role of the rep has changed. Obviously, you don't need me to tell you that, but I don't see reps going away. I think they continue to be an important piece of the buying process and the selling process, and reps are critical. So good reps become important. Bad reps, maybe they go away, but frankly, a lot of bad reps have already gone away. So that's what we're seeing here. So those are some of the things on buying and selling, and I'm going to leave you with with a great quote from Sun Tzu, who wrote a legendary book about battle tactics. He was a Chinese warrior back in God knows when, but and I don't have the original Chinese, but he basically said in the midst of chaos, there is also opportunity. And so I think those of you who have made it this far through the year, you've proven your mettle, and you've proven that you know what you're doing. And there's real opportunity for you to have better businesses. And because God knows there's enough chaos out there. So a lot of opportunities. Sun Tzu, I think he conquered half of Asia, so I guess he knew what he was talking about. I never met the man, so I can't tell you, but there's definitely opportunity. So we've got chaos, but we've got opportunity, and hopefully we've got some questions and some comments and some rebuttals. TZ, what's cooking here?
Well, my hat's off to you. Wonderful agenda there, and covered a lot of things. I have many questions going through my head. You answered them throughout. There was one I'd like to go back to the early part where you were talking about RH and the about the home business being very solid for the next 12 to 18 months. I was wondering if you have any impression of the next generation or transition from there. Where would it using your own personal history? Not that I don't even know if our history means so much anymore, but if you had an idea of where you think a natural transition would be from home, what do you think it would be?
Are you asking about the type of store? Tell me.
Yeah, well, just like home in that in the third circle.
Yeah.
Where do we go from home after we replace the accessories and the couch and other things? I mean, you're not going to tell me that we're going to go to window treatments next. I mean, where do you think that comfort zone goes? Where do you think it morphs to?
And I know you were being silly, but I have a good friend who runs one of the largest curtain companies in the country, and he says his business is exploded this year. That people, in fact, are buying curtains. Maybe they want to block out the outside world, but I see a lot of runway for home products. At a bigger level, the kitchen remodeling business is exploding. I think you're going to see a lot of a category that affects more of the folks who are on this call is outdoor products. If we're not traveling to other countries and getting on airplanes, we're spending a lot more time home, and we're going to be spending a lot more time in our backyards, on our terraces, and on our front porches. So if I were a retailer, I would be beefing up my assortment of outdoor merchandise. And I don't know if that's, obviously that's outdoor furniture, but that's candles, and that's lighting, and that's rugs, and outdoor dishes, and all those kind of things. But I think the outdoor category is going to be huge, particularly coming into the spring. So that's one category that definitely makes sense. And I mentioned picture frames before. I think people are going to want more pictures of the people that they know. So I would have a bigger picture frame assortment. And again, I don't know where else this is going. But I think we're going to be home for a while. Certainly 6 months minimum.
Warren, if first of all, I appreciate you coming on here, and I'm very happy to say that you've maintained your guru status throughout this. If people want to communicate with, first of all, maybe you could just tell some of the. I love the Robin Report, and I'm a subscriber, and and I always look forward to the next one that comes through. In addition to the Robin Report, could you tell people where they might look for some of your work?
Okay, and I'll be glad to, and I'm always glad to put in a plug. The Robin Report is a great newsletter, online newsletter about the bigger issues facing retailing, and it's helpful for anybody who's in the business. So I'm the editor for the home area, and do a couple of pieces a month for them. But they have a lot of stuff that is germane to anybody in the business. So that's the robinreport.com. I write more news stories for Forbes.com, and again, mostly on home, but sometimes on a bigger picture. I write for our old friends at Gifts and Decorative Accessories magazine, and I do a column for them every month. And then there's one other publication that you may or may not be too familiar with, called The Business of Home. And us old print dogs still refer to these things as publications, but this is another online newsletter, businessofhome.com. They do a daily kind of a news thing, and then some bigger picture issues. So it was a newsletter originally for the interior designer market, and they've expanded into retail. So you should look for that. All of these things I just mentioned are free, and you can sign up for them. Mention my name. I get 2-cent commission for every person I sign up. So don't forget that my name, and I'm joking. But as you can see, I write for whoever will have me, and I have no shortage of opinions. I'm another loudmouth New Yorker.
Well, that's your opinion.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, this will be this is being recorded, and we have the email addresses of everybody who's participated. So we'll be following up afterwards. So you'll each be getting a recording of this. The book I mentioned earlier was called The Human Brand. I found it fascinating, and I'm a believer in branding and in customer and anything that you could do to create loyalty, which is what the book is essentially all about. So, so that's hope that helps. Unless there's anything else, you've done your Yum. So wait a second, I got a question here from. Hey, Jennifer.
Hi. Thought this would be a good opportunity to share this book that I have.
Absolutely.
Can everybody see it?
Absolutely.
And I wanted to thank Bobby Gottlieb because it was a gift from her. It Sun Tzu, The Art of War.
Okay.
That's great. Thank you for that. Yeah, that's a that doesn't.
In the midst of chaos.
It's not one that's necessarily meant to be read from cover to cover, though you can. But just fingering through it, there's always some wonderful little pearls in the midst of that. A lot of inspiration. Thanks for sharing that, Jennifer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Hey, so what shows are you going to be participating in before we cut out here, Warren?
So I'm going to. I wanted to go to the movies, but the theater's closed. So I'm going to. I now live in Atlanta, so I will be at the Atlanta market in January, and hopefully we'll see some folks. And still weighing my options on the rest of the January shows in Dallas and Las Vegas. I guess New York show has been moved to virtual again, and we'll see what happens in the spring. I think making long range plans is a foolish endeavor these days. So I'm focusing mostly on what I'm doing this afternoon, and I hope the rest of you are as well.
Hey, thanks so much for your time, Warren. Once again, for those of you, we're going to keep the site open for the next 15, 20 minutes or longer. As long as there are people in there, you can continue to communicate with each other. on the application. But in the meantime, Warren, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Glad to be part of it. Thanks. Stay well, everybody.
Bye-bye.